You stupid black. Dean Patricia Morrison's voice cracked like a whip across her office. The white woman in the designer suit and dripping diamonds leaned forward, her face twisted with contempt. You think saving some random white man makes you a hero? Imani Jones stood frozen, still wearing blood-soaked yellow scrubs. The 20-year-old nursing student couldn't stop trembling. Her natural hair was pulled back in a neat bun, now coming loose. Blood, someone else's blood, stained her hands, her arms, her stethoscope. Dean Morrison snatched the hospital documentation from Imani's shaking hands and ripped the papers in half, then in half again. She threw the pieces in Imani's face. You people are all the same, dogs. Morrison's lips curled. You don't belong in our university. You skip exams, beg for handouts, then cry racism when we kick you out. I was saving his life. Imani's voice barely came out as a whisper. Tears streamed down her face. He was dying. I don't care if God himself was dying on that sidewalk. Morrison grabbed Imani's presidential scholarship folder. 4 years of 3.8 GPA, perfect attendance, Dean's List every semester, and dumped it in the trash can beside her mahogany desk. Expelled. Effective immediately. Morrison's diamond rings caught the light as she pointed at the door. Get your black ass out of my office. Out of my school. Go back to the streets where you belong. Imani stood there, destroyed, humiliated, broke, staring at 4 years of straight A's crumpled in the garbage. At her mother's promise, I'm going to be a nurse, Mama, dying in a trash can. Morrison pressed a button on her desk phone. Security. Remove Miss Jones from the premises. But 3 days later, a helicopter landed in Imani's apartment courtyard. The woman Imani saved, the man's wife, stepped out of the aircraft. She was a billionaire. Eleanor Richardson, wife of tech CEO Anthony Richardson. And she came to destroy everyone who hurt Imani. Welcome back to the story. Real quick, where are you watching from and what time is it over there? Drop your city and time in the comments. I love seeing where this story reaches. Now let's get back to how this all started. 72 hours earlier. Thursday, 7:23 a.m. The alarm screamed. Nursing 401. Final exam. 8 o'clock a.m. Late entry. Not permitted. Imani bolted upright in the tiny basement apartment she shared with her roommate Maureen. 37 minutes. She had 37 minutes to get across Philadelphia to Harrison Hall. She threw on yesterday's yellow scrubs, couldn't afford laundry this week, grabbed her backpack, stuffed her stethoscope in the side pocket. On her desk sat a photograph in a cheap plastic frame. 9-year-old Imani with her mother, Jessica Jones, before the pneumonia that killed her. Mama had waited too long, too scared of the medical bills. By the time they got to the hospital, it was too late. I'm going to make it, Mama, Imani whispered to the photo, like she did every morning. Today I finish. Today I become the nurse who saves people like you. She ran. November cold bit through her thin scrubs as she sprinted down Market Street. The sidewalks were packed with morning commuters. Business suits, coffee cups, everyone rushing somewhere important. The bus stop was 2 blocks away. She could see the Route 21 bus approaching. She could make it. She had to make it. Then she saw him. The man was crumpled against the brick wall of Felix's pharmacy. White, mid-50s, expensive navy suit now dark with blood. His head rested at an odd angle. Blood pooled on the concrete beneath him. His iPhone lay shattered beside his hand. People walked past. A businessman in a gray suit glanced down, kept walking. 2 college students with backpacks didn't even slow down. An elderly woman crossed to the other side of the street. Nobody stopped. Imani checked her phone. 7:34 a.m. 6 minutes until the bus. The bus that would get her to her exam. The exam that determined if she kept her $28,000 scholarship. The scholarship that was the only reason she could afford to stay in school. The man's lips moved. A whisper so faint she almost missed it. "Help!" Imani's backpack hit the concrete. She dropped to her knees beside him, her training taking over. "Sir? Sir, can you hear me?" Her fingers found his wrist. Pulse. Weak, thready, irregular. She tilted his head gently to check his airway. Blood matted his silver hair. She pulled out her phone and dialed 911 with shaking fingers. 911, what's your emergency? This is Imani Jones, nursing student. Her voice was steady despite her hammering heart. I have an unresponsive male, approximately 50 to 55 years old. Significant head trauma with active bleeding. Pulse is weak and thready. Pupils. She checked with her phone's flashlight. Unequal. Left pupil is dilated. Signs of shock. Skin is cold and clammy. Possible intracranial hemorrhage. I'm at Market and 15th Northwest Corner, outside Felix's Pharmacy. Ambulance is en route. ETA 4 minutes. Stay on the line. 4 minutes. In a brain bleed, 4 minutes was the difference between life and death. A businessman finally stopped. Is he dead? I need your jacket, now. The man stripped off his coat without question. Imani wrapped it around the injured man, preserving body heat, fighting shock. She positioned his head carefully, couldn't risk spinal injury, and applied steady pressure to the wound. Blood seeped between her fingers, soaking through her gloves, staining her yellow scrubs crimson. Sir, stay with me. She leaned close. What's your name? His eyes fluttered. Anthony. Anthony. I'm Imani. I'm a nursing student. Help is coming. Stay with me, okay? Keep your eyes open. Her phone lit up. 7:38 a.m. The bus pulled up to the stop half a block away. Through the morning crowd, Imani could see it clearly. The Route 21. Her bus. The bus that would get her to Harrison Hall with minutes to spare. The doors opened. People got on. The driver waited, checking his mirror. Anthony's pulse weakened under her fingers. His breathing grew shallow. His skin turned gray. Imani didn't look at the bus. The doors closed. The bus drove away. She watched her future leave without her. Before we continue, would you have stopped? Be honest. Comment stop if you would have helped, or bus if you would have kept going. There's no judgment here, but I'm curious what most people would actually do. Imani? Anthony's voice was barely there. Am I dying? No. She pressed harder against the wound, her hand steady even as her heart shattered. No, you're not. I won't let you. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. A white ambulance with blue and red lights screamed around the corner and pulled up beside them. 2 paramedics jumped out. What have we got? The lead paramedic, name tag read Rodriguez, knelt beside Imani. Unresponsive male, approximate age 50-55, significant head trauma with active bleeding. Unequal pupils, left dilated. Weak, thready pulse at approximately 55 BPM. Respirations shallow at 18 per minute. Cold, clammy skin. Signs of hypovolemic shock. Based on blood coagulation, I estimate injury occurred 8 to 10 minutes ago. I've maintained direct pressure and monitored vitals. No spinal movement. Rodriguez looked at Imani, at the blood covering her scrubs, her hands, her face. At the calm intelligence in her eyes, despite the tears. You're a nursing student? Yes, sir. Final year. You just saved this man's life. Rodriguez's voice was firm, certain. Seriously, another 10 minutes and we'd be calling the coroner. Brain bleeds don't wait. The paramedics loaded Anthony onto the stretcher. Rodriguez handed Imani a card. You need to come by the station. We'll need a statement. And... He hesitated. I'm writing a commendation report. What you did here. That's what we do this job for. The ambulance doors slammed shut. Sirens wailed. The vehicle disappeared around the corner. Imani stood alone on the sidewalk, blood drying on her hands, blood soaking through her scrubs, blood on her stethoscope, her face, her soul. Her phone exploded with messages. Maureen. Imani, where are you? Maureen. Prof. Morrison just locked the door? Destiny. Classmate. Girl, the exam started. You need to get here. Maureen. Imani. You're missing the exam. 7:42 a.m. The exam had started 4 minutes ago. Imani walked to campus anyway. Maybe Morrison would understand. Maybe she'd make an exception. Maybe saving a man's life would count for something. Harrison Hall loomed ahead. Red brick, white columns, the words "Excellence in Nursing" carved above the entrance. She'd walked through those doors 1,000 times. Today felt different. Final. 4th floor. Room 402. Through the small window in the door, she could see her classmates bent over their exam booklets. 23 students, all focused, all writing. Professor Morrison sat at the front desk, reading a book, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. Imani knocked. Morrison looked up, saw Imani, checked her watch, looked back down at her book. Imani knocked louder. Morrison sighed, stood, and opened the door exactly 2 inches. Miss Jones, you're late. Professor Morrison, there was an emergency. A man was dying. The exam started at 8:00 a.m. Morrison's voice was ice. It is now 8:14 a.m. Late entry is not permitted. You received a 0. Your final grade is an F. But I was performing CPR. I saved someone's life. I have blood. Imani held up her hands, still stained crimson. That was your choice, Miss Jones. Morrison's eyes were cold, empty. You chose to assist a stranger instead of attending your exam. That choice has consequences. Your grade stands. Please leave before I call security. The door closed. The lock clicked. Imani stood in the hallway, numb, staring at her blood-stained hands. At the promise she'd made to her mother. At the future she'd just lost. Imani had no idea that the man she saved was Anthony Richardson, CEO of Richardson Technologies and husband to one of the most powerful women in Philadelphia. She had no idea that in 72 hours everything would change. She had no idea that Eleanor Richardson was about to declare war on everyone who destroyed her. The email arrived at 11:47 p.m. Imani sat on the futon in her basement apartment, still in the blood-stained yellow scrubs. She hadn't been able to bring herself to take them off. Maureen had gone to bed hours ago, but Imani couldn't sleep, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but stare at the wall and replay the moment she'd chosen to stop. Her phone buzzed. From Office of the Registrar. Subject: Academic Standing Alert. Urgent. Her hands shook as she opened it. Dear Miss Jones, due to your final grade of F in NURS 401, your cumulative GPA has fallen to 2.73, below the minimum 3.0 required for presidential scholarship retention. Your scholarship, $28,000 per semester, is hereby revoked, effective immediately. Outstanding balance due, $28,000. Payment deadline, 48 hours. Failure to arrange payment will result in administrative withdrawal. Imani read it 3 times. The words didn't change. She opened her banking app with numb fingers. Checking account, $340.12. Savings, $0. 4 years of working double shifts at the diner, of living on ramen and instant coffee, of choosing textbooks over meals, and she had $340 to her name. She needed $28,000 in 48 hours. The math didn't work. The math would never work, but she had to try. Imagine getting that email, $28,000 in 48 hours, or lose everything. If you've ever felt that kind of financial pressure, where the math just doesn't work no matter how hard you try, drop it in the comments. This hits different when you've lived it. Friday morning, 9:00 a.m. Sharp. Imani stood outside Dean Patricia Morrison's office. She'd changed into clean clothes, black slacks, white blouse, the only professional outfit she owned. She'd printed every document, the 911 call transcript, the paramedic report, Rodriguez's commendation letter, photos of Anthony Richardson being loaded into the ambulance, photos of her blood-soaked scrubs. Evidence, proof, truth. Morrison's secretary barely looked up. "You have 3 minutes. The dean is very busy." The office was obscene. Leather chairs worth more than Imani's entire apartment, a desk the size of a dining table, solid mahogany, framed degrees covering the walls, PhD from Harvard, certifications, awards, a photo of Morrison shaking hands with the governor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the quad. Morrison sat behind that massive desk like a judge, late 50s, white, perfectly styled silver hair, pearl earrings, designer suit that probably cost more than Imani's semester tuition. "Miss Jones." Morrison didn't stand, didn't smile. 3 minutes. "Dean Morrison, I'm appealing my grade in Nurse 401. Imani's voice was steady despite her hammering heart. "I missed the exam because I was performing life-saving first aid on an emergency. I'm aware of your exam absence." "The appeal is denied." "You didn't let me finish?" "I don't need to." Morrison leaned back in her leather chair. "You missed your final examination. That is fact. The course syllabus clearly states that late entry is not permitted under any circumstances. You received a 0. Your final grade is F. There is nothing to appeal." Imani pulled out her folder with shaking hands. "I have documentation, hospital records. The paramedic said I saved his life. The 911 transcript shows—" "Miss Jones." Morrison's voice could freeze blood. "Personal emergencies require 24-hour advance notice per university policy. You provided no notice." "How could I give notice? He was dying on the sidewalk." "You had a choice. Attend your exam or assist a stranger. You chose. That choice has consequences." Imani felt her throat closing. "So if I had walked past, let him die, I'd still have my scholarship?" "You would have attended your examination." Morrison's face showed nothing. No compassion, no humanity. "Policy is policy, Miss Jones. We cannot make exceptions, even for dramatic circumstances. Otherwise, every student with a compelling story would expect special treatment. This isn't a story." Tears burned behind Imani's eyes. "This is someone's life. Your appeal is denied. You have until Monday at 5:00 p.m. to arrange payment of $28,000, or you will be administratively withdrawn from the university." Morrison picked up her pen and returned to her paperwork. "This meeting is over." Imani sat frozen. "I said this meeting is over, Miss Jones. Leave my office." Imani stood on shaking legs. She left the folder on Morrison's desk, all that documentation, all that proof, and walked out. Behind her, she heard the folder hit the trash can. That sound of her evidence hitting the trash. If you've ever had someone in power completely dismiss you, your proof, your truth, your reality, comment "dismissed" below. Sometimes the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed to protect certain people. That evening, Imani sat on the fire escape, phone pressed to her ear, staring at nothing. "Baby, I've been waiting for your call." Grandma Loretta's voice was warm, bright, full of love. "How'd that big exam go? My grandbaby about to be a nurse." Imani's throat closed. She pressed her hand over her mouth. "Imani? You there, baby?" "It went fine, Grandma." The lie tasted like poison. "It went really well. I knew it. Lord, I just knew it. Your mama's looking down from heaven, smiling so big her face must hurt." Loretta laughed. That beautiful sound that always made everything feel okay. "My grandbaby, Nurse Jones, has a nice ring to it, don't it?" Imani pressed her fist against her mouth to keep from sobbing. "I'm so proud of you, baby. So proud. You kept your promise to your mama. You're gonna save so many people. You're gonna change the world. I love you, Grandma. Love you too, baby girl. Now you go celebrate. You earned it. Imani hung up and broke down alone in the dark. Friday evening, Imani showed up for her shift at Mel's diner anyway. She needed the tips, needed the 2013s an hour, plus whatever spare change people left on greasy tables. Every dollar mattered now, even though $340 would never become $28,000, no matter how many shifts she worked. The diner smelled like burnt coffee and frying bacon. Mel stood behind the counter, a heavy-set black man in his 60s who'd owned the place for 30 years. He took one look at Imani's face and knew. You okay, baby girl? I'm fine, Mel. She tied her apron on with mechanical precision. Just tired. You don't look fine. I said I'm fine. Her voice came out sharper than she intended. Sorry. I need to work. Please. Mel studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Table 6 needs waters. Imani moved through the dinner rush on autopilot. Smile. Take orders. Deliver food. Refill drinks. Smile again. Pretend everything wasn't falling apart. A family of 4 at table 3. A couple on a date at table 7. An elderly man reading the newspaper at the counter, same seat he'd occupied every Friday for 10 years. She was refilling his coffee when she heard it. Hey, isn't that you? Imani turned. A young guy in a Temple University hoodie sat at table 8, holding up his phone. You're that nursing student, right? From the news? I don't know what you're... It's totally you. He turned his phone around. Look. The video was shaky, filmed from across the street. But there she was, kneeling on the sidewalk in her yellow scrubs, hands pressed against Anthony Richardson's head, blood everywhere. The ambulance pulling up. Paramedics loading him onto a stretcher. Her standing alone, covered in crimson. The caption read, Nursing student saves dying man, loses everything. Holy shit, the guy breathed. 3 million views. You're viral. Imani's hands went numb. The coffee pot slipped. Hot liquid splashed across the counter. She didn't move. Mel grabbed a towel. Imani, go take a break. No. She took the towel from him. Wiped up the coffee with shaking hands. I'm fine. I'm working. But her phone was already buzzing in her apron pocket. Once. Twice. 10 times. 20. By 7:00 p.m., every customer in the diner had seen the video. People kept glancing at her, whispering, pulling out their phones. A middle-aged woman at table 4 called her over. Sweetheart, I just watched your story. What that university did to you, it's disgusting. It's wrong. She pulled a $50 bill from her wallet and pressed it into Imani's hand. This is for you. Not a tip. For you. Ma'am, I can't. Yes, you can. You're a hero. Don't let them tell you otherwise. The bill was still warm in Imani's palm when the elderly man at the counter waved her over. He'd been crying. His newspaper lay forgotten beside his coffee cup. My wife, he said quietly. She had a heart attack 5 years ago. Collapsed at the grocery store. Nobody stopped. Everyone walked past with their phones and their carts, and nobody stopped. His voice broke. She died on that floor waiting for help. Imani's throat closed. You stopped. Tears ran down his weathered face. You stopped. That man is alive because you stopped. He pulled out his wallet, left 3 $20 bills on the counter. Thank you for being the person nobody was for my grace. If this story is hitting you emotionally, if you're feeling something real right now, hit that like button. And if you've lost someone because nobody stopped to help, I'm so sorry. Drop a dove below. We all deserve a world where people stop. By the time Imani's shift ended at 10:00 p.m., She'd made $340 in tips, more than she usually made in a week. People had been coming in just to see her, to leave money, to tell her she'd done the right thing. The video had hit 5 million views. The comments were a war zone. This is what heroes look like. University should be ashamed. Why isn't anyone helping her? She saved his life and they expelled her? This is racism. Policy is policy. She should have called 911 and kept going, playing the race card as usual. That school is disgusting. Imani sat in the diner's walk-in freezer, the only place she could breathe, and cried until her body ached. Her phone rang at 11:47 p.m. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Miss Jones? The voice was male, professional, older. My name is James Sullivan. I'm an attorney representing Anthony Richardson. Imani's heart stopped. Who? Anthony Richardson. The man whose life you saved yesterday morning. A pause. His wife is Eleanor Richardson, CEO of Richardson Technologies. Mr. Richardson is recovering well at Jefferson Hospital, thanks to your intervention. I don't understand. Why are you calling? Because Mrs. Richardson saw the news. She knows what happened to you. What the university did. Sullivan's voice grew firm. She'd like to meet with you. Tomorrow, 10 o'clock a.m. Are you available? Imani's mind reeled. I didn't help her for a reward. She knows that, Miss Jones. That's precisely why she wants to meet. She saw your story. She saw the injustice. And she wants to help, if you'll let her. Imani stared at her basement apartment ceiling, at the water stains that looked like faces in the dark. Miss Jones? Yes. The word came out as a whisper. Yes. I'll meet her. Excellent. I'll text you the address. And Miss Jones? Sullivan's voice softened slightly. What you did, stopping when everyone else walked past, that took extraordinary courage. Mrs. Richardson wants you to know that. The call ended. Imani sat in the dark, trembling, terrified to hope. Maureen found her there an hour later, still holding the phone, staring at nothing. Imani, what happened? That was her. Imani's voice sounded far away, hollow. The woman I saved. She wants to meet me. Oh my God, this is your chance. Maybe she'll... No. Imani shook her head hard. I didn't help her for money. I didn't do it for anything except... Her voice broke. Except it was the right thing to do. I know, babe. But maybe the universe is trying to give you something back. Imani looked at her best friend through tears. What if it's not enough? What if nothing is enough? Maureen pulled her close. Then at least you tried. At least you stopped. Outside, the video kept climbing. 6 million views, 7 million, going viral across every platform. The woman Imani saved was watching, and Eleanor Richardson was about to change everything. Saturday morning. The eviction notice slid under the door at 7:03 a.m. Imani heard the scrape of paper on concrete, that sound that meant bad news. She was already awake, hadn't really slept. She picked up the notice with numb fingers. Final notice to vacate premises. Tenant: Imani Jones. Rent overdue, $850. Late fees, $125,100. Total due, $975,100. Pay by Wednesday, November 20th, or vacate within 72 hours. She'd forgotten about rent. In the chaos of everything else, the exam, the expulsion, the viral video, she'd completely forgotten that her scholarship stipend was supposed to cover her share of rent, the stipend that no longer existed. Imani sat on the futon and did the math again, even though she already knew it wouldn't work. Tuition due, $28,000, rent due, $975. Total needed, $28,975. Money in account, $340. Plus, last night's tips, $340. Total, $680. The numbers didn't lie. They never did. She was $28,295 short with 48 hours until she lost her education and 72 hours until she lost her home. Maureen emerged from the bedroom, saw Imani's face, saw the notice. Oh God, how much? $975. I have... Maureen grabbed her purse, started counting. I have 200 in cash. My mom might be able to send... Don't. Imani's voice was flat, dead. You're already paying more than your share. I can't... Her voice broke. I can't keep taking from you. Imani, we're family. I need to get ready. That woman, Eleanor Richardson, she's meeting me at 10. Imani showered, changed into her only professional outfit for the second time in 2 days. Black slacks, white blouse. She stared at herself in the cracked bathroom mirror, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back tight, 20 years old and drowning. Her phone said 9:47 a.m. Sullivan had texted an address, but Imani didn't recognize it, just coordinates. Strange. At 9:52, she walked outside into the apartment courtyard and heard it. A sound like distant thunder, growing louder, rhythmic, mechanical. Whoop, 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 whoop. Mrs. Rodriguez from 2B stopped hanging laundry, looking up. KSSO. The kids playing basketball froze mid-game. Mr. Felix from the corner store stepped outside, shading his eyes. Everyone in the courtyard looked skyward. The helicopter descended. Sleek. Black. Expensive. Gold lettering on the side read, Richardson Foundation. The rotor wash scattered trash in violent spirals, sent laundry flying, made everyone stumble backward. It landed in the center of the courtyard, right on the cracked concrete where the kids usually played. Imani stood frozen, hand shielding her face from the wind. The door opened. Eleanor Richardson stepped out. A helicopter landing in your courtyard. If that happened to you right now, what would you think? This is amazing, or this is terrifying. Comment amazing or terrifying, because honestly, I'd be both at the same time. She was smaller than Imani expected, maybe 5'5", blonde hair cut in an elegant bob, white bandage visible on her left temple. She wore a camel-colored coat that probably cost more than 3 months' rent, black slacks, simple jewelry. Mid-50s, but moved with the confidence of someone who'd never heard the word no. Behind her, a man in a dark suit emerged carrying a leather briefcase. Late 40s, white, serious expression. The briefcase had gold lettering. James Sullivan, attorney at law. Eleanor scanned the crowd of shocked faces, found Imani, and their eyes met. Eleanor walked straight toward her. Every person in the courtyard watched in stunned silence as the billionaire crossed the concrete. Mrs. Rodriguez clutched her rosary. Mr. Felix whispered something in Spanish. The kids just stared, mouths open. Eleanor stopped 3 feet away. Imani Jones? Imani nodded, voiceless. May we come in? Imani's brain screamed about the peeling paint, the thrift store furniture, the ramen cups stacked in the sink, the eviction notice on the counter. But she stepped aside. Eleanor entered without hesitation. Sullivan followed, closing the door behind them. The apartment felt impossibly small with 2 strangers in expensive clothes standing in it. Eleanor looked around, not judging, just observing. Her eyes lingered on the photo taped to the wall. 9-year-old Imani, with her mother, both smiling at the camera. You have a beautiful smile, Eleanor said softly. In this photo, you should smile more. Why are you here? Imani's voice came out harsher than intended. Eleanor turned. You saved my life 4 days ago. Then I found out what it cost you. How did you? The news, social media, viral videos. Eleanor's expression was complicated. Gratitude, anger, something fierce. I called the university myself yesterday. Spoke with Dean Morrison directly. Imani looked at her feet. Then you know. I'm sorry you came all this way, but I'm glad you're okay. That's all that matters. Imani! Eleanor's voice made her look up. Do you know who I am? The woman I helped. That's all I need to know. Eleanor smiled. Sad, complicated, full of respect. My name is Eleanor Richardson. My husband, Anthony, is the CEO of Richardson Technologies. We have... She paused. Resources. Considerable resources. When I found out you lost your scholarship, your future, for saving my husband's life, Her voice cracked slightly. I couldn't let that stand. Sullivan opened his briefcase. Mrs. Richardson would like to cover your tuition expenses, the full $28,000, plus any additional costs. Housing, books, stipend? No. Imani shook her head hard, backing up. No, I didn't help you for money. Eleanor's eyes filled with something that looked like pride. I know. That's exactly why I'm here, because you sacrificed everything for a stranger. Most people walked past. You stopped. She stepped closer. But I'm not offering charity, Imani. I'm offering justice. What? Eleanor pulled out a folder. Imani's complete university records, grades, enrollment agreement, scholarship details, the email revoking everything. Dean Morrison denied your appeal in 42 seconds. Never looked at your documentation. When I called her personally, asking her to reconsider, she told me, and I quote, "We don't make policy exceptions, even for dramatic rescue stories." Eleanor's jaw tightened. She called saving my husband's life a dramatic rescue story. Imani's fists clenched. So here's what I'm proposing. Eleanor looked directly into Imani's eyes. You don't want charity? Fine. Neither do I. I want to change the system so no other student ever faces this choice again. But I need your permission. Permission for what? To fight. Publicly. Loudly. Legally. Eleanor's voice was steel wrapped in silk. They punished you for saving my husband. Let's punish them for punishing you. Imani stared at this woman who'd landed a helicopter in her courtyard and saw something unexpected. Genuine rage. Not pity. Not sympathy. Fury on her behalf. What would that look like? Sullivan spoke. Complaints. Investigations. Press conferences. Exposure of the university's patterns. Noise. Lots of it. And risk destroying any chance I have at another school, Imani said quietly. Or, Eleanor countered, become the reason the next student doesn't have to choose. Imani looked at the eviction notice on the counter, at her scholarship revocation email on her phone, at the photo of her mother on the wall. Go change the world, baby. Okay. The word came out as a whisper, then stronger. Okay, let's fight. Eleanor smiled, sharp, dangerous, beautiful. Good, because I brought a lawyer, and I'm not leaving until we have a plan. That moment when you decide to fight instead of fold, have you ever had one? When you chose the hard road because it was the right one? Comment. Fight if you've been there. And if you're in that moment right now, this story is for you. Keep watching. They sat in Imani's cramped apartment like generals planning a siege. Eleanor on the futon, Sullivan at the wobbly kitchen table, Imani perched on the edge of her desk chair. The helicopter waited outside, silent and imposing, drawing a steady crowd of neighbors who pressed against windows and whispered. Sullivan opened his briefcase with surgical precision. Miss Jones, do you have your enrollment agreement, the original scholarship documentation? Imani found the folder she'd kept since freshman year. Every form, every signature, every promise the university had made to her. Sullivan read through it, making notes on a legal pad, his handwriting tight and methodical. Standard scholarship contract requires maintaining a 3.0 GPA. Absence policy states emergencies may be considered with appropriate documentation. He looked up. That's our opening. May be considered. Not are automatically denied. Not require advance notice. May be considered. Which means discretion. Which means room for compassion. Eleanor leaned forward. James, what do we know about Morrison? Sullivan pulled another folder, thicker, heavier. Dean Patricia Morrison, 8 years in position. Previously Associate Dean for 6 years before that. PhD from Harvard. No major public scandals. But he spread papers across the table like evidence at a crime scene. I pulled data on accommodation denials over the past 5 years. Excel sheets, demographic breakdowns, color-coded charts. 52 students denied emergency accommodations in 5 years. 43 were students of color. That's 82%. Sullivan's voice was clinical, but his jaw was tight. 9 were white students. Of those 9, 6 received informal makeups that were never officially documented. No paper trail, just quiet assistance. Imani felt sick. They just helped white students? Quietly? Not quietly. Invisibly. Sullivan pulled out meeting minutes, faculty emails, recorded transcripts. Listen to this. Faculty meeting, March 2024. White student named Brandon Mitchell missed an exam due to a car accident. Dean Morrison herself. Brandon is a good kid from a good family. We should be flexible. Everyone deserves compassion. He clicked to another file. 3 weeks later. Black student named Keisha Williams missed the same exam due to an apartment fire and mandatory evacuation. Morrison's response: we cannot set precedents. Policy is policy. These students need to learn personal responsibility. Same professor? Imani's voice shook. Same professor, same course, same exam, same absence policy. Sullivan looked directly at her. Different enforcement. Eleanor's face had gone stone cold. Recordings? All legally obtained. Faculty meetings are recorded per university policy. I've filed FOIA requests for the last 5 years. Sullivan opened his laptop, clicked play. A woman's voice, older, nasal, confident. He's a good kid. Let's give him a chance. Different recording, different date, same voice. These students need to learn responsibility. Can't just make exceptions whenever they have problems. Sullivan pulled up photos. Same woman. Professor Linda Hartwell, white, tenured, head of curriculum committee. I thought I was the only one, Imani whispered. You're not. Eleanor squeezed her hand. You're just the first with someone powerful enough to make them pay attention. 82%. Let that number sink in. If you've ever been treated differently by a system that claims to be fair, in school, at work, anywhere, comment 82%. Because data doesn't lie. People do. Sullivan closed his laptop. Here's my recommendation. We don't ask for a personal exception for Imani. We demand systemic change. New policy protecting all students. Independent review of all past denials. Imani's scholarship reinstated as part of comprehensive reform. They'll never agree, Imani said. Eleanor smiled. Sharp, dangerous. Then we make them. Sullivan pulled out his phone, put it on speaker, dialed. 2 rings. Office of the President, Dr. Richmond Carver speaking. Dr. Carver, this is James Sullivan, attorney for Eleanor Richardson and Imani Jones. I'm calling regarding Miss Jones's scholarship revocation. A pause. The sound of a leather chair creaking. Mr. Sullivan, student matters are confidential. I cannot discuss. Dean Morrison denied Miss Jones's appeal without reviewing documentation. We have hospital records, paramedic statements, photographic evidence that Miss Jones performed life-saving first aid. This warrants reconsideration. Carver's voice was smooth, practiced. Our policies are clear. We apply them equally to all students. We cannot make exceptions based on individual circumstances, regardless of how compelling. Dr. Carver. Sullivan's voice went cold. I'm also calling on behalf of Eleanor Richardson, whose husband's life Miss Jones saved. The Richardson Foundation has donated $50 million to your institution over the past decade. Long pause, papers rustling. We deeply appreciate Mrs. Richardson's recovery and the Foundation's generosity. Mrs. Richardson is suspending all future donations pending resolution of this matter. Sullivan let that sink in. Additionally, we are prepared to file a Title VI civil rights complaint with the Department of Education regarding discriminatory enforcement of your absence policies. We have 5 years of data showing systematic racial bias in how accommodations are granted or denied. The smoothness vanished from Carver's voice. That's a very serious accusation. It's a very serious problem. Sullivan was relentless. 82% of denied accommodations were students of color, while white students received informal makeups at 6 times the rate. We have recordings of faculty using racially biased language when discussing appeals. We have documentation proving different standards for identical situations. Silence on the other end. The sound of breathing. Fear. Here are our terms, Sullivan continued. Full reinstatement of Miss Jones's scholarship. Immediate suspension of the current absence policy pending review. Independent investigation of all denials from the past 5 years. Creation of a transparent, equitable accommodation process. Or we go public with everything we have and let the Department of Education investigate. Mr. Sullivan, these matters require careful consideration. You have 72 hours. Sullivan's voice was steel. 72 hours to do the right thing quietly. Or we do this loudly with federal investigators, media coverage, and every civil rights organization in Pennsylvania. Your choice. I'll need to consult with the board. Then consult quickly. Clock starts now. Sullivan hung up. The apartment was silent, except for the distant thump of the helicopter blades idling outside. Imani stared at him. You just threatened the university president. No. Eleanor stood, stretched, looked out the window at the crowd of neighbors still watching. He gave them an opportunity to fix what they broke. There's a difference. Sullivan packed his files with calm efficiency. Now we wait. 72 hours. They'll either cave or we escalate. And if they escalate? Imani's voice was small. Eleanor turned, backlit by morning sun through the dirty window. Then we burn down every system that lets people like Morrison thrive. Every single one. She said it like a promise, like a threat, like both. Outside, the helicopter's rotors began to spin faster. Eleanor and Sullivan prepared to leave. But Eleanor paused at the door, turned back. Imani, they're going to come after you, personally. They'll try to discredit you, find flaws, make you the villain. It's going to get ugly. I know. You can still walk away. Take the money. Transfer quietly. No one would blame you. Imani thought about her mother, about Grandma Loretta, about every student who'd been crushed before her. I'm not walking away. Eleanor smiled, fierce, proud. Good. Neither am I. Someone leaked the story. By Sunday morning, it was everywhere. Philadelphia Inquirer. Student loses scholarship after saving life. University faces backlash. CNN. Nursing student. Expelled for performing CPR. Civil rights complaint. Threatened NBC. Philadelphia. Viral video. Exposes university's heartless policy. The university's Facebook page was under siege. Thousands of comments, most furious. That girl is a hero, racist. University punishes black student for saving a life. I'm an alumna, and I'm disgusted. Defund this school immediately. Imani's TikTok had exploded overnight. 400,000 followers. The original video had 8 million views. Her face was everywhere, kneeling on that sidewalk, blood on her hands, the ambulance driving away with her future. She hadn't posted anything, hadn't asked for this, but the algorithm didn't care about her consent. At 9 a.m., University President Dr. Richmond Carver released a statement. Imani read it on her phone, sitting cross-legged on the futon while Maureen made coffee. The university is committed to fairness and compassion in all our policies. We are currently reviewing Miss Jones's case with fresh eyes and examining our accommodation procedures to ensure they serve all students equitably. We value Miss Jones's heroic actions and look forward to productive dialogue with the Richardson Foundation and all stakeholders as we work toward a resolution that honors both academic integrity and human compassion. That's it? Maureen read over her shoulder. That's their response? No apology, no action, just, we're reviewing? It's PR garbage. Imani tossed her phone aside. They're hoping it blows over. But it wasn't blowing over. By noon, student protesters had gathered on the university steps. 20 at first, then 50, then over 100. Signs everywhere. Justice for Imani policy over people. Black students matter shame on Morrison. Local news trucks arrived. Reporters interviewed students. The story grew teeth. Refused to die. Corporate speak. We're reviewing. Fresh eyes. Productive dialogue. If you've ever gotten one of these non-apology statements that says everything and nothing, comment, reviewing. They think words can make this disappear. They're wrong. Behind closed doors, the Board of Trustees held an emergency meeting. Trustee Margaret Reynolds slammed a folder on the conference table. You've created a nightmare, Patricia. A billionaire threatening 50 million, students protesting, media calling us racist. Explain. Dean Morrison sat rigid, defensive. I followed policy, to the letter. If we reverse course now, we look weak. Every student will expect exceptions. Trustee Howard Langford leaned back. Patricia, nobody cares about your policy right now. Fix this. Offer her the scholarship back. Make it go away. If we capitulate, then we capitulate. Margaret's voice was ice. Better than federal investigators and national humiliation. President Carver cleared his throat. Patricia, reach out to Miss Jones. Offer a makeup exam, quietly, confidentially. We need this resolved before it gets worse. Morrison's smile was thin, calculated. Of course. The call came at 4:17 p.m. Imani was heating ramen when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Miss Jones, this is Dean Patricia Morrison. Imani's hand tightened on the phone. Dean Morrison. I'm calling with good news. The university has reconsidered your situation. Morrison's voice was smooth, professional, empty of the venom from their last meeting. We'd like to offer you a makeup examination for Nurse 401. Imani's heart leaped. When? This Friday. However, there are conditions we need to discuss. The word conditions landed like a stone in her stomach. What conditions? You'll need to sign a non-disclosure agreement regarding this matter. Refrain from any media contact, social media posts, or public statements. Accept this resolution as final. In return, we'll consider scholarship reinstatement after you pass the makeup exam. Consider reinstatement? The committee will review your case, but we need assurances this matter is closed. No more press conferences, no more viral videos, no more complications. Imani's throat went tight. You want me quiet. I want you to move forward with your education, Miss Jones. Morrison's voice went cold, sharp as a blade. If you decline this offer, the original decision stands. You remain expelled. And frankly, with a disciplinary flag and failed course on your record, other universities won't be eager to accept a transfer student with such complications. The threat was crystal clear. Take this deal, shut up, or never be a nurse anywhere. I need time to think. You have 24 hours. After that, the offer is withdrawn. Morrison paused. I suggest you think very carefully about your future, Miss Jones. The line went dead. Imani stood in her kitchen, phone still pressed to her ear, trembling with rage. Maureen emerged from the bedroom. Who was that? Morrison. Imani's voice shook. She offered a makeup exam. If I sign an NDA. If I promise to shut up and disappear. Oh my God! Maureen took the phone from Imani's shaking hands. What are you going to do? I don't know. Imani sank onto the futon. I need to call Eleanor. Eleanor answered on the first ring. Imani? They offered me a deal. Makeup exam if I sign an NDA and stop all media contact. But they'll only consider reinstating my scholarship after I pass. Silence on the other end. Then Eleanor's voice, ice cold. They're trying to silence you before the 72 hours are up. Before we go public with everything. Will it work? In court, I mean. Can they legally? Probably not. But they're hoping you won't risk going that far. They're betting on you being scared. Eleanor's voice softened. Imani, no one would blame you if you took this deal. You'd get your degree, move on, have a life. Imani stared at the photo of her mother on the wall. But, she whispered, but if you sign that NDA, nothing changes. Morrison keeps her job. The policy stays broken. And the next student who stops to help someone will face exactly what you're facing now. Imani closed her eyes. Saw Keisha Williams, denied after losing her home in a fire. Saw Maya Gonzalez, denied after donating bone marrow to her sister. Saw Tyler Anderson, denied after stopping a suicide. Saw 52 students crushed by a system that protected cruelty and punished compassion. What should I do? I can't tell you that, Eleanor said gently. This is your life, your future. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. But, Imani, she paused. Your mother made you promise to save people. You kept that promise on a sidewalk 4 days ago. The question is, are you willing to keep it now? That's the real question, isn't it? When keeping your promise costs you everything, do you still keep it? If you would sign the NDA and take the deal, comment, sign. If you'd refuse and keep fighting, comment, refuse. No judgment. This choice is impossible. Imani sat with Maureen that night. The NDA pulled up on her laptop screen. In exchange for academic accommodation, Imani Jones agrees to refrain from any public statements, media appearances, social media posts, or legal action regarding this matter. This agreement constitutes full and final resolution. If you sign this, Maureen said quietly, you get your degree, graduate, become a nurse. Live your dream. And if I don't, then you fight, and it might destroy you. Imani thought about her mother, too scared of bills to see a doctor until it was too late. About Grandma Loretta saying, go change the world. About 9-year-old her at a funeral, making a promise. About every silent student before her who'd been crushed and forgotten. She closed the laptop. I'm not signing. Maureen's eyes filled with tears. Are you sure? No. Imani's voice broke. I'm terrified. But Maureen, if I sign this, if I let them silence me, what was the point? What did I stop for? Maureen pulled her close. Then we fight. Imani called Eleanor at midnight. I'm not signing the NDA. Eleanor's voice filled with something fierce, proud, dangerous. Then let's show them what a mistake they just made. Eleanor's press conference was scheduled for 10 a.m. Monday at the Richardson Foundation headquarters downtown. By 9:30, the atrium was packed. Reporters from every major outlet, cameras everywhere, students who'd taken the train in to show support, faculty members who'd come to bear witness. Imani stood backstage, terrified, wearing the same black slacks and white blouse she'd worn to Morrison's office. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Eleanor appeared beside her, calm and composed in a navy suit. "You don't have to speak if you don't want to. I can handle this." "No." Imani's voice was stronger than she felt. "I need to be there. I need them to see me." "Then let's go change the world." They walked out together. The podium bore the Richardson Foundation seal, a rising phoenix in gold. Eleanor stepped up to the microphone. Absolute silence fell. "3 weeks ago," Eleanor began, her voice clear and unwavering, "I collapsed on a Philadelphia sidewalk. I had a brain aneurysm. I was bleeding out, dying. Dozens of people walked past me, checked their phones, kept walking like I was invisible." Cameras flashed. Reporters leaned forward. Then Imani Jones stopped. Eleanor gestured to Imani standing beside her. "She's a nursing student. She had a final exam in 14 minutes. That exam meant keeping her $28,000 scholarship, staying in school, becoming the nurse she'd promised her dying mother she'd become. She knew what it would cost." Eleanor's voice cracked slightly. "And she stopped anyway, performed CPR, stabilized me, saved my life. Doctors told me I had maybe 15 minutes before irreversible brain damage or death. Imani gave me those 15 minutes. Pause, let it land. This university punished her for it, expelled her, revoked her scholarship. When I investigated why, I found something worse than one cruel decision." Eleanor pulled out the data report. "I found a system, a pattern. 5 years of emergency accommodation denials. 82% were students of color. White students received informal makeups at 6 times the rate. Same policies, different enforcement." She held up the report for the cameras. "That's not fairness. That's discrimination with a syllabus." Eleanor's eyes blazed. "You want to know what I learned bleeding on that sidewalk? Kindness should never cost more than cruelty. Right now, at this university, it does. It costs scholarships, futures, everything. The institution is teaching students that grades matter more than lives, that following rules matters more than saving people." She stepped back from the podium. "Today, I'm announcing the Compassionate Action Scholarship. $10 million for students who face consequences for helping others during emergencies. Imani will be the first recipient, but more than that." Her voice went steel. "We are demanding immediate policy reform, transparent accommodation procedures, independent oversight, review of every past denial. And if the university refuses, the Richardson Foundation will withdraw all $50 million in current and planned donations and pursue federal civil rights complaints." The room erupted with questions. Eleanor raised her hand. "Imani would like to say something." Imani stepped forward on shaking legs. Hundreds of eyes on her, cameras everywhere. This moment would define everything. "I didn't help Mrs. Richardson for money," she said quietly. The room went silent. "I didn't help her for recognition. I helped because she was dying, and I'm going to be a nurse. That's what nurses do." Her voice grew stronger. "If this university thinks that was wrong, if they believe I should have walked past a dying woman to take a test, then they're teaching the opposite of everything healthcare should be. They're teaching students to value grades over humanity. And I refuse to be part of a system that punishes compassion. I refuse to be part of a system that punishes compassion." If that line hit you, share this video right now. Someone in your life needs to hear this. Someone needs to know they're not alone in fighting systems that are broken. Share it. The press conference ended with Eleanor's final words. "We gave them 72 hours to do the right thing quietly. They chose retaliation instead. Now we do this loudly." By noon, the story had exploded nationwide. Justice for Imani was trending on every platform. The university's phone lines crashed from the volume of angry calls. Alumni threatened to stop donations. Current students organized a walkout. And in her corner office, Dean Patricia Morrison decided to go to war. She pulled Imani's entire academic file, 4 years of records, and started building a case. She called it due diligence. It was character assassination. Sophomore year, paper turned in 12 hours late. Professor had accepted it. Imani's grandmother had been hospitalized. Morrison's note. Pattern of disregard for deadlines. Junior year, Imani had questioned a test question. Professor agreed, changed the answer key. Morrison's note. Argumentative toward faculty. Challenges authority. Freshman year, parking ticket unpaid. Imani didn't own a car. Dismissed later as clerical error. Morrison's note. Disrespect for university regulations. She scheduled meetings with select faculty members. Asked carefully worded questions. Professor Collins, can you describe Miss Jones's classroom demeanor? Thomas Collins, 63, white, tenured, considered his words. Assertive, sometimes challenges the material or asks difficult questions. Morrison wrote, aggressive, confrontational. Did she ever request special accommodations? Once she asked for more diverse case studies. Said something about wanting better representation of patients of color in the curriculum. Morrison wrote, demands special treatment based on identity politics. By Friday afternoon, Morrison had 20 pages. A dossier of concerns about Imani's character, conduct, and fitness for the nursing program. She scheduled an academic standards review board hearing for Monday morning. She didn't tell Imani it would be formal. Didn't mention there would be a panel. Didn't warn her to bring legal representation. The email was deliberately vague. Academic standards meeting. Monday 9 a.m., room 301. Morrison smiled as she sent it. She'd handled difficult students before. They always had the same weakness. They believed the system would be fair. She called Professor Collins into her office. Thomas, I need you at the standards review Monday. We're addressing concerns about Miss Jones's conduct. Collins frowned. Patricia, I had Imani in 2 courses. She was one of my best students. She was combative, questioned your authority, demanded curriculum changes. Morrison's voice was sharp. Unless you remember it differently. Collins hesitated. He'd been up for tenure review next year. Morrison sat on that committee. No, he said quietly. I remember. Good. Monday, 9 a.m. We're giving her a choice. Voluntary withdrawal or formal dismissal for conduct violations. Either way, this problem disappears. Collins left her office feeling sick. Morrison opened a bottle of wine from her private cabinet, poured a glass, looked out her window at the quad where students were gathering for another protest, holding their ridiculous signs. They thought they could pressure her. Thought a billionaire and some viral videos could force her hand. They didn't understand how institutions worked. By Monday afternoon, Imani Jones would be gone. No scholarship, no degree. A disciplinary flag that would follow her forever. And there wasn't a thing Eleanor Richardson could do about it, because by the time anyone knew what was happening, it would already be done. Morrison raised her glass to her reflection in the window. Policy is policy, she whispered, and I am the policy. Outside, students chanted. Inside, Morrison planned an ambush. And Imani, sitting in her apartment reviewing notes for a makeup exam she'd never be allowed to take, had no idea what was coming. Monday morning, 8:47 a.m. Imani arrived at Harrison Hall thinking it was a routine meeting. Maybe they'd finally agreed to let her take the makeup exam. Maybe this nightmare was ending. She walked into room 301 and froze. 5 people sat at a conference table, like judges at a tribunal. Dean Morrison at the center. 3 faculty members she recognized, Professor Collins, Dr. Sarah Chen, Professor Michael DeVries, and a man in a suit she didn't know, laptop open, legal pad ready. Miss Jones? Morrison gestured to a single chair facing the panel. Please sit. This is the Academic Standards Review Board. Imani's heart hammered. I thought this was just a meeting. This is a meeting. Sit down. Imani sat, hands shaking. She reached for her phone to text Eleanor. Phones away, please. The man in the suit spoke. This is a confidential proceeding. I'm David Brennan, University Legal Counsel. Imani put her phone down face up on the table, screen dark. Useless. Morrison opened a thick folder. Miss Jones, this board has been convened to address concerns regarding your conduct and fitness for continuation in the nursing program. What concerns? Imani's voice came out small, confused. My GPA is 3.8. Academic performance isn't our sole focus today. Brennan's voice was smooth, practiced. Character and conduct are equally important for healthcare professionals. Morrison slid papers across the table. We've documented multiple incidents demonstrating a pattern of problematic behavior, disregard for deadlines, argumentative conduct toward faculty, unpaid fines, demands for special accommodations based on personal viewpoints. Imani stared at the dossier. 20 pages. Her name on every one. What is this? Your record, Morrison said coldly. Professor Collins, would you please share your observations? Collins shifted uncomfortably, wouldn't meet Imani's eyes. I had Miss Jones in 2 courses. She was bright, but combative. Frequently questioned grades, challenged curriculum choices, displayed a certain entitlement. Entitlement? Imani's voice cracked. I asked for diverse case studies because the textbook had 0 black patients. You demanded special changes to suit your personal political views, Collins said quietly, as if reading from a script. I asked for better education. Imani's hands gripped the table edge. How is that? Miss Jones, control your tone. Morrison's voice was ice. This outburst demonstrates exactly the behavior we're discussing. Aggression, inability to accept feedback, refusal to follow established procedures. Imani looked around the table. 5 white faces, all disapproving, all judging. This wasn't a hearing, it was an execution. 5 against 1, no warning, no lawyer. If you've ever been ambushed by people in power, blindsided, outnumbered, unprepared, comment ambushed. They don't fight fair because they don't have to. Dr. Chen spoke, her voice apologetic but firm. Imani, we're trying to help you understand how these patterns appear from an institutional perspective. This is retaliation. Imani's voice shook with rage and terror. I refuse the NDA. I went to that press conference. And now you're making up conduct violations to destroy me. These are legitimate concerns documented over 4 years, Brennan said smoothly. The timing is coincidental. Bullshit. Silence. Morrison's smile was thin, sharp, victorious. That language, Miss Jones, is another example of the unprofessionalism we're addressing. Morrison leaned forward. We're offering you an option. You can withdraw voluntarily from the program. We'll seal your record with a neutral notation, personal reasons. You can reapply elsewhere without this complication. You want me to quit? We want to resolve this professionally, Brennan said. A voluntary withdrawal protects your future opportunities. And if I don't? Morrison's eyes glittered. Then we proceed with formal dismissal for conduct violations. Those decisions appear on transcripts, background checks, licensure applications. You'll be marked as dismissed for disciplinary reasons. Most nursing programs have strict character requirements. They won't accept students with conduct flags. The threat was surgical, precise, designed to destroy everything. You're blackmailing me. We're offering you a professional exit, Brennan said calmly. The formal hearing is scheduled for 6 p.m. today. You have until then to decide. Sign the voluntary withdrawal, or we proceed with dismissal. This is retaliation for the press conference. This is a standard review process. Morrison stood. You have your options, Miss Jones. Choose wisely. This meeting is concluded. Imani grabbed her phone with shaking hands and walked out on trembling legs. In the hallway, she collapsed against the wall, gasping for air. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from Eleanor. She called back. Imani, where are you? Are you okay? They ambushed me. Imani could barely speak through tears. Built a whole fake conduct case, made me sound like I'm aggressive and entitled, and they're giving me a choice. Quit voluntarily, or they formally expel me with a disciplinary flag that'll destroy any chance I have at another school. Silence on the other end. Then Eleanor's voice, colder than Imani had ever heard it. Where are you? Outside Morrison's office. Stay there. Sullivan is coming. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. Eleanor, they have 6 hours. By tonight, I'm either gone quietly or gone with my career destroyed. Not if I have anything to say about it. Imani sat on a bench in the hallway, phone clutched in both hands. Students walked past, staring, whispering. She was the girl from the videos, the hero, the problem. Her phone rang. Grandma Loretta. Baby, I saw the news. That press conference, are you okay? Imani broke. Told her everything. The ambush. The fake violations. The choice between voluntary destruction and forced destruction. Loretta was quiet for a long moment. Your mama used to say, the right thing and the easy thing are rarely the same. She told me that the day before she died. Said she knew she should have gone to the doctor months earlier, but she was scared of the bills. Said, at least I can tell Emma I tried. Grandma, I don't know if I can keep trying. It's too hard. They're too powerful. Then stop, baby. Loretta's voice was gentle. I won't love you any less. You've done more than anyone should have to do. You saved a life. You stood up. If you need to walk away now to survive, that's okay. But what about the other students? The system? Baby, you can't change the world if you break yourself trying. Whatever you decide, I'm proud of you. So proud. Imani hung up, torn in two. Part of her wanted to sign, transfer somewhere far away, survive. But another part, the part that sounded like Mama, like Grandma, like 9-year-old her at a funeral, whispered, Not yet. Don't give up yet. Sullivan arrived 15 minutes later, read the dossier, his jaw tightening with every page. This is witness intimidation, fabricated evidence. They're trying to scare you into silence before we can build our case. He looked up. Can they legally expel you? Maybe. They'd have to prove legitimate misconduct. A good lawyer could shred this in court, but they're betting you won't risk it. What do I do? Imani whispered. What do you want? Imani thought about her mother, about Eleanor in that helicopter, about Keisha and Maya and Tyler and 52 crushed students whose names she'd never know. I want to fight. Then we fight. Sullivan called Eleanor, put her on speaker. They ambushed her, fabricated conduct violations, threatening career-destroying dismissal if she doesn't withdraw voluntarily by 6 p.m. The silence on the other end was terrifying. Then Eleanor's voice, barely controlled rage. They retaliated. They actually retaliated against a student for speaking out. Yes. How bad can we hurt them? Sullivan paused. With everything we have, we can end careers, trigger federal investigations, destroy their reputation for a generation. More silence. Then Eleanor, her voice like steel. James, release everything. The full data set. Every audio file. Every discriminatory email. Unredacted. I want it sent to every major media outlet in the country. I want the Department of Education to have no choice but to investigate. I want the world to see exactly what kind of institution this is. Eleanor, that's nuclear. Good. Her voice was ice and fire. I don't want them to recover. I want them to burn. Are you sure? They tried to destroy a 20-year-old girl for saving my husband's life, for speaking truth, for refusing to be silent. Eleanor's voice broke slightly, then hardened. Release everything. Now. Sullivan looked at Imani. This will get loud. Very loud. Are you ready? Imani thought about Morrison's smile, about Collins lying to her face, about a system that crushed students and called it policy. Burn it down, she whispered. Sullivan opened his laptop and started typing. At 2:00 p.m., the files went live. The data hit every major outlet simultaneously at 2:00 p.m. Systematic discrimination. Universities' fair policies mask. Racial bias. The report was devastating. 68 pages. Charts showing 5 years of denials. 82% students of color. White students receiving informal accommodations at 6 times the rate. Audio recordings of faculty discussing identical situations with opposite outcomes. CNN ran it as breaking news. MSNBC interrupted regular programming. The Philadelphia Inquirer posted the full dataset online. Within minutes, the audio clips went viral. Brandon's a good kid from a good family. Let's give him a chance. Dean Morrison discussing a white student who missed an exam for a family vacation. These students need to learn responsibility. We can't just do favors every time they have problems. Dean Morrison, 3 weeks later, discussing a black student who missed an exam because her grandmother died. Same policy. Different enforcement. Undeniable racism, recorded and time-stamped. Social media exploded. This is proof, not feelings. Not playing the race card. Actual, documented, racism. Everyone who defended this university listened to the tapes. Good family equals white. That's what they mean. The university's switchboard crashed within 20 minutes. Hundreds of calls per minute, alumni threatening to stop donations, parents demanding answers, reporters wanting statements, civil rights organizations promising legal action. Good kid from a good family. We all know what that means, don't we? If you've ever been judged as not being from a good family because of your race, your zip code, your last name, comment, good family. Let's talk about what that phrase really means. At 3:15 p.m., the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights issued a statement. We have received credible evidence of potential Title VI violations at the university. We are opening a formal investigation into discriminatory practices in the administration of emergency accommodation policies. The institution has 30 days to respond to our inquiries or face federal sanctions, including loss of federal funding. Federal funding. The university received over $200 million annually in federal grants, loans, and research money. Losing it would be catastrophic. Inside President Carver's office, panic. Sir, we have protesters. His assistant's voice shook. Students are walking out of classes. Carver looked out his window. The quad was filling with people. 50 students at first. Then 100, 200, 500. By 4:00 p.m., over 800 students had walked out. They carried signs. We are all Imani. Fire Morrison racism isn't policy justice now. Professor Maria Rivera, Latina, nursing faculty, stood on the steps with a megaphone. We teach our students to save lives, to put compassion first. Then, this institution punishes Imani Jones for doing exactly what we taught her. The hypocrisy ends today. The crowd roared. This data shows what black and brown students have known for years. The system is rigged. Policy is just code for discrimination. Fair on paper, racist in practice. More cheers. Chanting. Justice for Imani. Fire Morrison now. 40 professors had signed an open letter by 4:30 p.m., demanding Morrison's immediate removal and comprehensive policy reform. The Pennsylvania NAACP released a statement calling the audio recordings evidence of institutional racism and demanding federal intervention. Alumni donors started pulling pledges. One major donor, a tech CEO who'd pledged $5 million, posted on social media. I will not support an institution that punishes heroes and protects racists. My pledge is withdrawn until Morrison is fired and real reforms are implemented. The Board of Trustees convened an emergency meeting at 5 p.m. 12 trustees in the boardroom, faces grim. President Carver stood at the head of the table, pale and sweating. Trustee Margaret Reynolds slammed the data report on the table. 82%. How did none of us see this? We trusted Morrison. Trustee Langford started. We trusted a racist. Margaret's voice was sharp. We trusted her because we didn't bother to look, because it was easier to believe the system was fair than to examine whether it actually was. Carver cleared his throat. The immediate question is damage control. How do we damage control? Margaret stared at him. Richard, the Department of Education has opened a Title VI investigation. We could lose federal funding. That's $200 million. We have 800 students protesting. Major donors withdrawing support. National media covering this as a civil rights issue. There is no damage control. There's only whether we do the right thing now or get destroyed. Langford leaned forward. What are you proposing? Morrison is suspended, effective immediately. Margaret's voice was steel. Full investigation of every denial from the past 5 years. Independent Oversight Board, majority students and faculty, not administration. Complete policy overhaul. And Imani Jones gets full reinstatement, public apology, and whatever support she needs. That's total capitulation, Langford protested. That's survival. Margaret looked around the table. Eleanor Richardson has pledged $50 million over the next decade. She's prepared to withdraw all of it. We're facing federal sanctions. We have the largest student protest in university history happening right now. We either get ahead of this, or we get buried by it. Trustee Daniel Foster spoke quietly. There's also the moral issue. We punished a student for saving a life. That's indefensible. Silence. Morrison needs to go, another trustee said. Not just suspended. Fired. Carver looked sick. Without board approval, I can only suspend. Then we vote now. Margaret stood. All in favor of Dean Morrison's immediate suspension pending termination proceedings? 8 hands rose. 3 remained down. Langford and 2 others. Motion carries. Margaret turned to Carver. Call Morrison. Tell her she's suspended. Then draft a statement. Full reinstatement for Imani Jones. Formal apology. Immediate policy suspension. Independent investigation. And commitment to comprehensive reform. We go public tonight. The hearing. Carver checked his watch. Morrison scheduled a disciplinary hearing for Miss Jones at 6 p.m. Cancelled. All charges dismissed. And Richard? Margaret's eyes were hard. If you can't handle this, we'll find someone who can. At 5:47 p.m., Dean Patricia Morrison's phone rang. Patricia, this is Richard Carver. The board has voted to suspend you, effective immediately. You are to cease all university activities and surrender your access credentials. You can't do this. I followed policy. You created a discriminatory system and tried to destroy a student for speaking out. Campus security is outside your office. Please leave quietly. The line went dead. Morrison sat in her office, surrounded by her degrees and awards and photos with powerful people, and realized she'd lost. Sometimes karma doesn't just knock. It kicks the door down. If you believe people who abuse power should face consequences, comment karma. And if you're still watching, we're almost at the end. Stay with me. At 6 p.m., Imani sat in her apartment with Eleanor, Sullivan, and Maureen, watching the news. President Carver stood at a podium, looking defeated. The university takes full responsibility for the failures in our accommodation policies. We have suspended Dean Patricia Morrison pending a full investigation. We are implementing immediate reforms, including independent oversight and transparent procedures. He paused. visibly uncomfortable. We extend our deepest apology to Miss Imani Jones and every student who was harmed by discriminatory enforcement of our policies. The camera cut to a reporter. We're also learning that Imani Jones's scholarship has been fully reinstated, all charges dismissed, and she'll be allowed to complete her nursing degree with full university support. Imani stared at the screen, tears streaming down her face. Effective immediately. The university is suspending its current absence policy and implementing the Compassionate Action Protocol. Any student who misses academic obligations to assist in documented emergencies will receive automatic accommodation. An independent review board will examine all past denials, and students who were unfairly denied will have their cases reconsidered. Eleanor squeezed Imani's hand. "You did it." "We did it," Imani whispered. The protest on the quad erupted in cheers. Students hugging, crying, chanting, "Justice for Imani, we won." Sullivan closed his laptop satisfied. Title VI investigation will continue, but this statement essentially admits liability. They'll be under federal oversight for years. Real change, not just promises. Maureen wrapped Imani in a fierce hug. "You changed everything." Imani's phone rang. Grandma Loretta. "Baby, I'm watching the news. I'm so proud. Your mama would be so proud." Imani closed her eyes, felt her mother's presence, heard her voice. "Go change the world, baby." "I kept my promise, Mama," she whispered. "I kept my promise." Outside, the sun set over Philadelphia. Students celebrated. Reporters filed stories. And somewhere in the city, 52 students who'd been denied and forgotten finally saw justice. Because one person stopped. Because one person refused to stay silent. Because Imani Jones chose compassion over convenience and changed an entire system. The reckoning was complete. This story isn't just about Imani. It's about every person who's been crushed by systems that call themselves fair while protecting the powerful. If this story moved you, if it made you angry, inspired you, gave you hope, share it. Post it everywhere. Let people know that one person can make a difference. One person stopping, one person refusing to stay silent, one person choosing courage over fear. That's how systems change. That's how the world changes. Comment. Share. If you're going to spread this story, and if you know someone fighting their own impossible battle right now, send this to them. Let them know they're not alone. Let them know that sometimes refusing to give up is the most powerful thing you can do. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. Now go be the person who stops. The person who refuses to stay silent. The person who changes everything. See you in the next story.